Sugar Ray Robinson walks into Detroit's 6th Precinct carrying a complaint report when the desk sergeant looks up with immediate suspicion and asks, "What are you doing here?" What happens in the next 10 minutes doesn't just change one officer's attitude, it changes how an entire police station thinks about presumption, respect, and what it means to serve all citizens equally. Detroit, Michigan, September 30, 1955, Tuesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. The 6th Precinct Station House sits like a fortress on Michigan Avenue. Brick walls weathered by decades of Detroit winters, barred windows that let in little light, the smell of cigarettes, coffee, and institutional disinfectant. This is where law meets order, where justice gets processed, where your skin color often determines whether you're seen as citizen or suspect before you speak your first word. Sugar Ray Robinson pushes through the heavy glass door wearing a charcoal gray suit, white shirt, conservative tie, 34 years old, multiple world champion, the most recognizable athlete in America. In his hand, he carries a manila folder containing a formal complaint against a local business owner who refused him service. He's doing exactly what American citizens are supposed to do, reporting discrimination to proper authorities. But walking into a police station, while black in 1955 Detroit means you're guilty until proven innocent, means you're a problem until proven otherwise, means your presence requires explanation before your purpose gets consideration. Sergeant William Murphy looks up from his desk blotter. 48 years old, 22 years on the Detroit force, raised in an era when black men entering police stations meant trouble. His first instinct isn't to help, it's to assess threat level, to determine why this black man is in his station house. In Murphy's mind, the mathematics are simple. Black man plus police station, criminal matter, either reporting a crime, being arrested, or causing problems. The possibility that Robinson might be conducting legitimate citizen business doesn't compute in Murphy's worldview. "What are you doing here?" Murphy asks, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to demanding explanations from people who look like Robinson. Can you imagine Robinson's frustration, walking into a public building to conduct citizen business and immediately being treated like a suspect? "I'm here to file a complaint," Robinson says calmly, approaching the desk with his folder. "Discrimination complaint against Hartwell's Restaurant on Grand Boulevard." Murphy eyes Robinson suspiciously. Discrimination complaints mean paperwork, mean investigations, mean hassles for officers who prefer simple cases with clear resolutions. Black men claiming discrimination usually means trouble for everyone involved. "You sure you're in the right place?" Murphy asks. "Maybe you want to talk to someone else about your situation." "Your situation, not this discrimination, not illegal treatment. Your situation, like Robinson, is the problem, not the business owner who violated his civil rights." Picture the condescension dripping from Murphy's voice, the assumption that Robinson must be confused about proper procedures, about where he belongs, about how the system works. "I'm in exactly the right place," Robinson replies, setting the folder on Murphy's desk. "Filing a discrimination complaint with Detroit police, standard procedure for civil rights violations." Murphy glances at the folder, but doesn't open it, doesn't show interest in Robinson's complaint, just sees another black man making problems for white business owners, another case that will generate headlines and headaches. "Look," Murphy says, leaning back in his chair, "these discrimination things are complicated, usually just misunderstandings between customers and businesses. Maybe you misread the situation." Misread the situation, the classic dismissal, the suggestion that Robinson imagined discrimination instead of experiencing it, that the problem exists in Robinson's perception, not in American reality. But what Murphy doesn't realize is that he's questioning the intelligence and judgment of one of the most famous people in America, someone who has navigated racial hostility his entire career and learned to distinguish between misunderstanding and malicious treatment. Robinson opens the folder, pulls out photographs, witness statements, documentation of the restaurant's refusal to serve him despite valid reservations and payment attempts, professional evidence gathering, legal preparation, the work of someone who understands exactly how discrimination operates and how to prove it. "Officer Murphy," Robinson says, reading the nameplate on the desk, "this isn't a misunderstanding. This is documented discrimination. I have witnesses, photographs, and written statements. I'm requesting official investigation and appropriate charges." Murphy glances at the evidence, but still doesn't take it seriously. In his experience, discrimination complaints go nowhere. Business owners have rights. Customers sometimes misinterpret policies. Cases get filed and forgotten. Even if something happened, Murphy says, these cases are hard to prove. Business owners have rights to refuse service. Maybe they were full. Maybe they had valid reasons. Valid reasons, the eternal excuse for discrimination. Always some other explanation that avoids confronting racial bias directly. This is where Robinson's patience reaches its limit, not because of anger, but because of clarity. He realizes that Murphy isn't just dismissing his complaint, he's dismissing Robinson's intelligence, his credibility, his rights as an American citizen. "Sergeant Murphy," Robinson says, his voice remaining calm but gaining steel, "do you know who I am? Should I?" Murphy responds dismissively. "Sugar Ray Robinson, 6-time world boxing champion. I've represented America in international competitions, been featured on magazine covers, appeared on national television. I think I understand the difference between a misunderstanding and deliberate discrimination." Recognition flickers across Murphy's face. He's heard the name, seen the fights, knows Robinson is famous, but fame doesn't change the basic equation in Murphy's mind. Famous or not, Robinson is still a black man making complaints about white business owners. "Look, Mr. Robinson," Murphy says, "I'm sure you're a fine fighter, but police work is different from boxing. These discrimination cases are tricky. Usually better to just let things go. Find somewhere else to eat. Let things go. Find somewhere else." The advice given to every black American facing discrimination. Don't fight the system. Work around it. Accept second-class treatment and move on. But Robinson doesn't accept second-class anything. Not in boxing rings. Not in business dealings. Not in police stations. Can you feel the tension building in that station house? The collision between institutional dismissal and individual dignity. "Officer Murphy," Robinson says, "I'm not asking for special treatment because I'm famous. I'm asking for equal treatment because I'm an American citizen. The same investigation you'd conduct if a white businessman reported being discriminated against." The question hangs in the air like smoke. Would Murphy dismiss a white businessman's discrimination complaint? Would he suggest a white complainant let things go, or find somewhere else? Murphy shifts uncomfortably. The parallel is obvious, and it's damning. But acknowledging the double standard means admitting that his dismissal of Robinson has nothing to do with evidence, and everything to do with race. Other officers in the station are starting to notice the conversation. Detective Ray Collins, a 15-year veteran, approaches Murphy's desk. Lieutenant James Foster emerges from his office. The afternoon desk sergeant drama is drawing an audience. "Problem here, Murphy?" Collins asks. "Mr. Robinson here wants to file a discrimination complaint," Murphy explains. "I was telling him these cases are usually complicated, hard to prove." Collins looks at Robinson, recognizes him immediately. "Sugar Ray Robinson? The boxer? What kind of discrimination are we talking about?" Finally, an officer who treats Robinson's complaint as legitimate business instead of nuisance reporting. Robinson explains the situation clearly. Restaurant reservation, arrival on time, refusal of service based on race, documented evidence, professional witnesses, legal preparation. Collins examines the evidence seriously. Photographs showing Robinson being turned away, witness statements from other patrons who observed the discrimination, written documentation of reservation confirmations. "This looks pretty clear-cut," Collins tells Murphy. "Why haven't you started the paperwork?" Murphy scrambles for justification. "I was just explaining that these cases are complicated, usually misunderstandings." "Misunderstanding?" Collins looks at the evidence again. Mr. Robinson had confirmed reservations, arrived on time, was refused service while white customers were seated. Witnesses confirm racial language was used. What's complicated about that? This is the moment when Murphy's assumptions collide with professional police work, when dismissive attitudes meet actual evidence, when institutional bias confronts legal reality. Lieutenant Foster joins the conversation. 25 years on the force, old enough to understand politics, smart enough to recognize that dismissing Sugar Ray Robinson's legitimate complaint could generate serious problems for the entire department. "Mr. Robinson," Foster says, "I apologize for any confusion. Let's get your complaint properly filed and investigated. Detective Collins will handle the case personally." The shift is immediate and obvious. Once Robinson's complaint is taken seriously by ranking officers, Murphy's dismissive attitude becomes professional embarrassment instead of standard procedure. But Robinson isn't finished. He's going to use this moment to address the larger issue Murphy's behavior represents. "Lieutenant Foster," Robinson says, "I appreciate your professionalism, but I'm concerned about something. When I first approached Sergeant Murphy with documented evidence of discrimination, he immediately suggested I was mistaken, that I should let it go and find somewhere else. Would he give the same advice to a white businessman reporting discrimination?" The question cuts through the station house like a blade, forcing everyone present to confront the double standard Murphy applied. The assumption that black complaints are less credible than white complaints. Foster looks at Murphy, who suddenly finds his desk blotter fascinating. The silence stretches uncomfortably. Everyone knows the answer to Robinson's question. Everyone knows Murphy wouldn't dismiss a white businessman's complaint so casually. Mr. Robinson raises a valid point, Foster says carefully. All citizens deserve equal treatment when reporting crimes. All complaints deserve professional investigation regardless of the complainant's race. It's not a full admission of institutional bias, but it's acknowledgement that Robinson's treatment was inappropriate, that his complaint deserved immediate professional attention instead of dismissive assumptions. Robinson nods. That's all I'm asking for, Lieutenant. Equal treatment, the same professional response any American citizen should receive when reporting criminal activity. Detective Collins begins processing Robinson's complaint properly, taking detailed statements, photographing evidence, preparing investigation plans, doing the professional police work that should have started the moment Robinson entered the station. Murphy watches from his desk, understanding that his handling of the situation was not just unprofessional, but potentially career-damaging. You don't dismiss legitimate complaints from famous citizens and expect no consequences. What happened in those 10 minutes changed more than one discrimination case. It exposed how institutional assumptions about race affect police responses to black citizens. It demonstrated how famous individuals can use their platform to demand equal treatment, not just for themselves but for the principle of equal justice. Within a week, Detroit Police Department issued new guidelines for handling discrimination complaints. All reports must be processed immediately regardless of complainant's race. Training sessions were implemented to address officer bias in citizen interactions. Other police departments heard about Detroit changes. The ripple effect of Robinson's 10 minutes spread throughout law enforcement culture. Sergeant Murphy requested transfer within the month. He couldn't handle the daily reminder of his professional failure when he dismissed America's most famous athlete based purely on racial assumptions. Detective Collins became the department's specialist in discrimination cases. His professional handling of Robinson's complaint earned recognition and promotion. The restaurant owner was successfully prosecuted, fined significantly, and required to implement non-discriminatory policies. The case became precedent for future discrimination prosecutions. Robinson never sought publicity for the incident, didn't demand headlines. He simply wanted equal treatment under law and got it. But the story spread through Detroit's black community anyway. Robinson understood something powerful that afternoon. Sometimes the most important fight isn't in the boxing ring. It's in everyday interactions when citizens demand equal treatment from public institutions. Think about interactions you've witnessed between authority figures and citizens. Have you seen different treatment based on race, class, or appearance? Because 10 minutes of demanding equal treatment can change institutional policies, can expose bias that hurts entire communities, can prove that celebrity platforms, used responsibly, can advance justice for everyone.